the force of fanboyism around Trump is so strong that it just won't make. I think it'll help him, actually. So this is the America we now have, and this is the president we're now facing.
Donald Trump was charged in Georgia this week, charged, I should say. He's indicted in the U.S. state of Georgia over election meddling. He is on tape asking the Secretary of State of Georgia, Brad Raffensperger, amazing names you Americans have, Zoe,
always have,
to find enough votes to overturn the Georgia presidential election results. It's not entirely clear what he meant on tape because he's Donald Trump and it never is, but one can surmise. It's a big deal, of course, because not just because he's a former president being indicted, but also because this is happening at a state rather than a federal level, which means he's president, he can't just exonerate himself. It doesn't, however, prevent him from running for president, even if he happens to be in jail when the election happens, which is a staggering thing to say out loud.
I think there's just clearly a certain law of physics, which I think is actually a law of masculinity, which applies to a certain type of man, which is that in Trump's case, it literally just can only help. I mean, the more he's in, he may be... Obviously, he's indicted. He's supposed to turn himself in Georgia. There's a genuine possibility he will be sent to prison. This is literally going to help his kind of presidential bid. I did see a poll that suggests that some sizable number of right-wing Americans are beginning to think this is politically significant now, what he's being charged with in Georgia. But I just think, it's really interesting. You look at the other candidates, very few of the other kind of potentials for the Republican nomination are even willing to criticize him. I mean, the force of fanboyism around Trump is so strong that it just won't make. I think it'll help him, actually. So this is the America we now have, and this is the president we're now facing. And I mean, there's this point about free speech. So Trump can, he's claiming free speech for all these things. He can become president. It's a bit of a free speechy point that you can be in jail, but you can still be president. But, some people are beginning to say, free speech isn't absolute. And I wonder if there's a point at which people might say, you cannot literally get away with murder. I mean, not literal murder, but...
non-literal murder.
Not literal. You cannot literally get away with not literal murder and just still have carte blanche. But I think he's going to... I think it'll just work to his advantage. I think we'll have a president in jail, frankly. Well, I could never find it entertaining. I remember in 2016 when he got in, it was both like incredibly boring and incredibly depressing to me because I just thought, well, everything associated with this guy is going to be like a monochrome of bad. There's no bright side to any of this whatsoever.
Well, but
and
it's
even
a
his gaffes
thing.
and the entertainment side of it's depressing. I mean, I suppose I grew up in America in the 80s and 90s, not to age myself, but, the Clinton days. And remember the fuss we made about George W.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that was still a completely different, obviously very cliche point to make, but different era.
In comparison.
Yeah.
Well, I remember, I said this on the show once and people sort of expressed a degree of disdain on social media. But there is a point, sometimes you listen to Trump speak, when he's speaking, you go, this guy could actually be a not bad stand-up comedian. He knows how to play a crowd. He knows how to deliver a joke. He knows how to sort of like to surf a laugh. Zoe, what fascinates me about the whole Trump story, sort of taken in the round. Basically, what you've got now is you've got the unstoppable force of Trump, who's always believed he can say and do what he likes. And anyone who criticizes him on any grounds is just a hater, a liar, a hater, fake news, whatever. You've got that unstoppable force coming up against the immovable object of the actual law. Actual rules, actual practices. And there are some who would say, what prosecutors in America, they shouldn't do this because it's politically contentious. They're turning him into this martyr figure. But law can't bend like that, right?
Well, I would imagine, I think law obviously does have so many complexities that's exactly why people get lawyers, because they can bend it in all sorts of ways. But at the end of the day, they can't. But I think, it'll be really interesting to see. I think this whole the one upside perhaps to Trump's fiasco that is Trump, I should say, is that, we've seen American law in all its different layers, flex hard. And so I think it'll be really interesting and actually quite encouraging if we see a successful legal challenge to, there's an attempt to ban him from ever being able to hold office, and that would be impressive.